We are live coming at you guys on a Monday. This is not our normal schedule. This actually will probably be our show for the week, but Boys Bet Ball episode 23. 23. This is our Jordan episode, and it's all Natty we're talking about today. We'll talk about a little bit of other stuff since this probably will take the place of our normal show that we typically do on Tuesdays or Thursdays. But we have finally come to it. We'll review the final four games. It happened and laid out exactly how I needed it to lay out, to be honest. We'll get into that. The matchup for tonight. Everyone knows who's playing. It's Dan Hurley's Yukon Huskies versus Dusty Mays. And maybe you could also add a caveat, Dusty Mays and Dave Portnoy's Michigan Wolverines going at each other in Indianapolis. And then you got Big Cat paying like $200 for the worst seats ever. We'll get into everything, Natty, and maybe a little bit of NBA. We'll see. I actually had an interesting play. Obviously, the Mavs played the Lakers last night, and we'll get into that. And odds have been shifting on Rookie of the Year, so I actually did make a play, and it's probably not what you expect. So let's first start off with the final four games. I clutched out. Call me lucky or whatever, but I needed both UConn to win and Michigan to win. To be fair, Michigan was like slight favorites. UConn was dogs, which I get it. Numbers wise, you have to be going Illinois right there. The best offense in the nation. You saw what they did against Houston in Houston, but you can never count out coaching and Dan Hurley because Dan Hurley is going to be ready for Illinois. And I said the X factor was Andrei Stojakovic, and I think he had a pretty decent game. If I go to the stats, and before I go into the stats, just a masterclass by UConn and Dan Hurley, what they're able to do to get to the championship game. And honestly, not much to say about that Michigan game, but I needed both those games to win Spencer's buy-in bracket challenge, and I clutched it out and I was able to win. I don't know if you had any thoughts before we dive in probably to the first game.
Yeah, no, it was unfortunate for me, great for you.
But you hedged, right?
What was that?
But you hedged, right?
Not a true hedge. I sent you what I ultimately did, which was the over.
Okay. Yeah.
That was more just
a separate play.
Honestly. Everyone kind of seemed like they were on the over. I got home because I went to go run some errands. By the time I got home, the game had started, and I saw your text. I called Mike before the game started after the UConn game and kind of just asked him what his thoughts were. Obviously, he needed Michigan to win, and I needed Arizona to win because Arizona was my winner, but it came down to just whoever advanced to the national championship game. And yeah, it started off as Michigan a slight favorite in the odds. And I think up until game time, people just started pouring in on Arizona, basically became a pick 'em. And we both thought, gun to our head, Arizona was going to just come out and win. It seemed like they had won their conference championship game. I guess Michigan really didn't have a hiccup during the tournament as well, right?
Or what do you mean? In like the NCAA tournament or their conference?
Yeah, tournament? NCAA. I know they didn't win there.
No. To be fair, Arizona didn't. They've dominated.
Yeah, so I knew from like following Arizona because they were my pick to win the Natty that they really hadn't stumbled kind of against Purdue in the first half, but then they kind of poured it on and beat them pretty convincingly. Both teams seemed like they were just the dominant team. We talked about it last week, how we felt like this was a la NFC championship from this last year. Like whoever won this game would eventually become the national champions, or in that case, the Super Bowl champions. And yeah, Michigan just came out of the game and just punched Arizona in the mouth. Arizona kind of came back a little bit early first half, but then Michigan just continued to pour it on, and yeah, Mike won the bracket and a little bit richer. So
Yeah.
kudos to him.
And of course, I hedged a little bit. I just hedged my buy-in. And of course, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I made a lot more by winning, you know, by having Michigan win versus Arizona. But I hedged my buy-in a little bit. And that's it's just like the nature and the laws of sports betting. It's like if you hedge, then the opposite always happens. And it's like, oh, okay, like I'm glad I hedged and that like my true bet won, but at the same time, like my payout's a little bit less, but it is what it is, you know. You take your wins when you can, and I was very fortunate too. But yeah, before I get into that second game, this first game was honestly a really good game as well, the better of the two games, which you would ironically think the Michigan Arizona game would have been the better with two of the best teams I think in the entire tournament going head to head against each other. But yeah, key factor was UConn. If they can limit the three and then points in the paint and just play overall good defense that they're traditionally known for playing. Sure, they're a little bit outsized as far as like an aggregate against Illinois because Illinois is the tallest team in the nation, but you got that thickness and Terrace Reed in the middle, and they essentially ran their offense through him, which is what they did all tournament. And you can't guard that guy one-on-one. So you knew they were going to double. And the big X factor for UConn, at least offensively, was Solo Ball. He came out after having a couple very subpar games in the tournament, came out 5 for 11 from the field. The big thing was 3 for 7 for 3 with 13 points. And obviously Terrace Reed leading the charge with 17.6 for 12 from the field, 11 rebounds. Braylon Mullins, he was kind of the unsung hero in that Duke game, obviously a freshman. He had a pretty bad shooting night from inside the arc, but from 3, 4 for 7. And UConn shot decently, 12 for 33 from 3-point land, whereas Illinois, who was red hot against pretty much every single team they played in the tournament, and granted, Houston was the best team they played so far. And I went back to last stream and saying UConn is their most difficult challenge so far and really their only big test. I mean, I guess you could say Houston, but I mean, Houston, I think, just had a really bad game against Illinois, and Illinois had the game of their life, hitting every single shot. But Illinois getting limited, 6 for 26 from 3, that's 23%. And then 34% from the field, which this high-powered Illinois offense goes against a really good UConn defense. This is probably the game that panned out that should have probably been the Houston game, but you have to give credit. UConn does have a little bit better offense. I think a better head coach in Dan Hurley. And yeah, Illinois really couldn't get anything running. There's UConn, I want to say, led for majority of the game. If I go to the stats, yeah, they led for 88% of the game, as much as 14, and Illinois' largest lead was 1. So kind of even though at times it was kind of close, I would kind of compare it to a little bit to the Mavericks game against the Lakers yesterday, where the Mavs kind of were in the driver's seat majority of the game. Yeah. Dan Hurley cannot be denied. So, yeah, that was a really good game. Had one down, had one more to go in Michigan, and man, they laid it on them. And I don't know what happened. Tommy Lloyd maybe just didn't have his guys ready, but his guys were not ready to face what they faced against Michigan. And you could argue Michigan sure a little bit has the size advantage with Ade Mara. Ade Mara had himself a day. No pun intended. Actually, all the pun intended. He had 26 points, and he clearly dominated that game. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a late first-round pick if he declares for the draft. Obviously, there's issues with his size. I'm not going to get into his whole NBA comparison. He can learn how to shoot the three. He can be a very interesting player, but he dominated the game, and there was nothing Arizona could do against him. And then their whole team. I want to say they had all of their 5 starters in double digits scoring. Oh, sorry, except for Burnett. So 4 of their 5 starters scoring in double digits, and then their one guard off the bench, McKinney, who's a freshman, by the way, having 16 points off the bench, 6 for 9 from the field, 4 for 6 for 3. They shot 44% from 3, 48% from the field, and then Arizona was kind of the opposite, 37% from the field, 35% from 3. Yeah, Michigan dominated inside and out, offense, defense. And yeah, maybe it was just one of those days where all their shots were going in, but Dusty May had his guys ready, and Tommy Lloyd, unfortunately, did not have his guys ready. So I don't know how. I want to say that the coach in that situation is kind of to blame a little bit. Obviously, the players were the ones playing on the court, but yeah, that was a good old fashioned beatdown, and you hate to see that in the Final Four, especially against these two great teams.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just going over the box score, looking at the major differences. Other than what you pointed out, obviously the field goal percentage, whether it's 2-pointers, 3-pointers, and I guess even free throws, just a huge discrepancy. The one that really stands out to me is the assist differential. Michigan had 22 assists and Arizona only had 5. So that ball was moving around. And yeah, I mean, I watched the entire game because I had the over, had to make sure that one hit. And yeah, it seemed like they were just taking wide open 3-pointers. The ball would just get swung around. They'd find somebody at the top of the key or at the wing, and it was just raining threes. I mean, to shoot 44% on threes on 27 shots, like, it's pretty impressive. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else to review about the games, or we can just move on to the national championship, which is happening in about 3 hours.
Yeah, I think we can just move on to the national championship. And right now, this line, I mean, it's pretty much at open price, I want to say. I mean, I guess it opened at Michigan -7.5, and that got bought down. And now it's sitting at a steady 6.5, with Michigan being favored. UConn Huskies +230. I've seen as much as like +250. Maybe that was more so whenever the line was 7.5. But yeah, UConn the underdogs again. I have my kind of initial lean. I'm actually not betting this game because I don't really have a dog in this fight anymore. I guess I do have a family bracket, but everyone's like pitching in like $1. So it's like I win $20 if Michigan wins. So I will probably not be betting this game and just purely going to enjoy it. But I do have a lean though, if people want to bet it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the graphics. You've seen the graphics. Dan Hurley is at least this whole year, if not including all of last year, the cover king. He hasn't not covered a spread. Yeah, I'll ask you, do you see him covering the 6.5?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think this is a fair line. I don't think it's necessarily mispriced in any way. But yeah, I think UConn can cover it. Something I like a little bit more, and I actually don't know the exact number, so let me look it up real quick, is I would love to look at the first half instead. Just because we kind of know what to expect from this Michigan team, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's already priced in already for the first half spread for UConn. Okay, it's actually not too bad. Let me see right here. The best price that I'm seeing right now is like 4. It's kind of I see a juiced 4, more so 3.5, even money. So if you can find like a 4, 3.5, UConn being dogs +4, 3.5, that would kind of be my play. If you really want to be ballsy, then maybe like even UConn first half money line. But I like the spread a little bit more because I think UConn can keep this definitely close in the first half. It's going to be interesting to see what the pace is like. I don't see Michigan getting off to a crazy great start like against the Arizona team. I think Dan Hurley's too good of a coach, and he'll obviously make adjustments even before halftime. Because the last thing you want to do if you're UConn is get down by like 20, or close to 20 in the first half, exactly what Arizona did. Because UConn, I would not say has the offensive firepower as in Arizona. So if you're down 20 at half, UConn loves to play defense and milk the clock. So they're gonna try to slow this game down, run their sets as much as possible, and not let Michigan get up and down the floor, as you can clearly saw in that Arizona game. So I like the UConn plus the points first half.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to say if I'm not somewhat disappointed in you. National championship, Mr. College basketball, and just gonna sit this one out. It's not exactly boys bet ball, but
well, that's why I said if I were to bet maybe like first half, I actually might give that a look. That's what I like the most.
Yeah, I'm playing Michigan. Like we talked about it last week. I'm sticking to my guns. Let me be wrong. I'm taking an alt line. I'm taking -4.5. But yeah, I'm playing Michigan. I'm looking at all their games, albeit like they started versus 16 seed Howard, 9 seed St. Louis, 4 seed Alabama. They're flawed, but they get up and down the court. Tennessee and Arizona, and they've absolutely obliterated every single team. I mean, can't say obliterated. They won by 13 by Alabama, but double-digit wins in every single one of their tournament games. UConn, you could argue, shouldn't even be there. If Caden Boozer just dribbled the ball, it would be Duke. They took care of business against Illinois. Got to tip your hat to that. Play the team that's in front of you. We talked about Illinois and how they had the easiest path to the Final Four out of all the Final Four teams. Yeah, I'm hoping it's not a complete blowout like we saw on Saturday against Arizona, but I would probably, if you asked me, gun to my head, I would take the 6.5 or even like the -7. And yeah, I'm rolling with Dave Portnoy's Michigan.
You would lay the points with Michigan.
Yeah.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on the total? It's like 144.5. I want to say.
Yeah, I saw I'll look at other people's opinions.
It opened at 144.5.
Total scores that kind of puts you at a what? 170 or 73, 72 outcome, like right down the middle. Assuming they cover with like a 7-point spread, essentially Michigan have to put up 80 points, and they've put up 90 points in every single game. So let's just say, what's it? You said 145?
146.5.
So 147, 90. Yeah, I mean, if they put up 90 points, which they probably don't put up 92, because to your point, UConn tends to slow the game down. So even just 147 minus 80,
they'll still put up 75 plus.
Yeah, you have an 80. If they score 80 points, all you need UConn to score is 67 points to cover.
Yeah, so you just don't want to blow out. Yeah,
that's winning by 13 points. So if they could put up, 147, 73, 72, so 75, 72. I haven't really thought about it, but it seems like 147, maybe even tease that with a tease spread for Michigan, like a 142.5, 3.5, -3.5 Michigan. All the historical data is pointing towards an over, but if Michigan's controlling the game, to your point, they're going to slow the game down. And
I mean, UConn's going to want to slow the game down.
Yeah, UConn, excuse me. But yeah, I would probably lean the over, but I'm all over Michigan. Like, are they going to shoot the same as they shot last game? At least from 3? No, but even without Yaxel Lindebaum, that's his last name, right? Lindenborg.
Yeah,
Lindenborg.
The Dominican
Um,
LeBron.
he came back, but he played what 14 minutes in the
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
and they still just blew him out. So yeah, go Big Blue. I feel like Michigan's gonna take it.
All right, you have it from us. I like the first half. UConn spread. Uh, Spencer likes Michigan and alt line for the full game. Also, maybe do a little cook a little parlay where you match that alt spread with a low of the over, right?
Yeah, I mean you could even alt the you could lower the over slightly and alt over, and probably get it at even odds.
Yeah, yeah. I think if UConn has any chance in this game, they want it as slow and as low scoring as they can. That way, they can somehow get up 5 or 6 points with the last like 5 minutes, and then they just like literally park the bus and then run their sets. That's UConn's game plan.
Yeah, so it's kind of going to be contingent on the first half and if UConn can, stay in the game, control tempo. Because Michigan, like you've seen this tournament, they don't stop. They're going to just keep
Yeah,
scoring and keep
yeah,
running up that score. I think their coach even said they asked him why did they have Yaxel still in the game. He's like, because did you watch the Duke game? Like
yeah,
basically insinuating like the game's not over until there's 3 zeros on the clock.
yeah.
So yeah, unfortunate that I didn't win the bracket, but I'm gonna make it back on this Michigan play tonight.
Yeah, and it's crazy just the way I want it too, because it's like I had Purdue winning, but it's the fact that I also had UConn making the national championship. Yeah, that was gotta shout out my guy John Rothstein. You know, if you know, you know. Um, he's kind of who I base my bracket based off of his picks. So
Yeah, because I think if it's the same guy that I think you're talking about, he
just
talked about taking UConn to win the national championship, right? It was at like plus 2100.
possibly, yeah. He had UConn and Purdue in his national championship, and having Purdue win. I liked his breakdown of like the exactly why. And I guess I got pretty close. You know, I got one half of it. I got UConn and then Natty. Purdue was, you know, you could argue maybe even one game away, but they would still have to beat Michigan. And
Yeah, it pains me because I had 3 out of the 4 teams in the final 4, and then I had nobody advancing, so I got 0 points in the final
yeah,
4. And
that's what's tough. Yeah, and the later rounds like mean so many points. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Do we want to hit a little bit of NBA real quick? I wanted to talk about rookie of the year a little bit.
yeah, I mean, update it, at least for me here in Lakerland. What was it on Thursday? Is when our season officially ended against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Tough right there.
Not only did we get our stuff handed to us in that game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the game was over within the first 6 minutes, but we lost. MVP candidate Mr. March, Luka Doncic, for at least the regular season, and I'm estimating at least the first round, as well as Austin Reeves announced a couple days later. He also had Luka had a grade 2 hamstring strain, and Austin Reeves had a grade 2 oblique strain. He's also out for the regular season. Probably a similar timeline as Austin Reeves. Yeah, just super big blow for my Lakers. We talked about it throughout this season. I was pretty adamant that we weren't going to make it out of the first round. This last month of March helped give me a little bit more optimism that, hey, maybe we can make it to the second round. And, once you make it to the next round, once you're in the playoffs and you're winning, momentum, and you never know what will happen, especially with Wemby and just his injury history. But yeah, we played last night, as Mike mentioned earlier in the podcast, against the Dallas Mavericks, who hadn't won at home since January. And Yeah, we came up short. Kind of got absolutely punched in the mouth in the first and second quarter, down as much as what 21, 25
Me
points.
too.
Kind of stormed back, but couldn't really get any stops. I chalk it up to trying to get as many stops as possible, and getting those stops and having to convert buckets on the other side of the court. We don't have Luca who can just get shots up with ease, so we cut it all the way down to 2 in the third quarter, and then kind of just ran out of gas and kind of played back and forth, ultimately losing the game by 6 points. Noble effort by LeBron, 30 points, but I think Cooper Flag had 45 points.
Yep.
And the
45.
game before that, he had
8 and
50.
9. Yeah.
49. Is that correct?
No, he had 51 against the Magic.
Oh, but he had 45 last night, right?
Yeah, 45. Yeah, his stat line was like 45, 9, and 8. Like he almost had 45-point triple double.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good segue to what you wanted to talk about, the Roy race.
Yeah, dude, the Rookie of the Year race is tightening up. As you saw after Coop's 2 game, and I was talking with Spencer, I actually bought Cooper Flag like a month or 2 ago, saying like, oh, dude, all it takes is, a couple more 40-point games. And that didn't happen and then I actually exited that position. And I'm still, I guess, okay exiting that position. I lost a little bit, but I still think honestly, even though I have the Dallas bias and I love like the Mavs and Cooper Flag, I still think Con Knipple should probably win Rookie of the Year. Just what he was able to do just throughout the season on get the Hornets, that used to be a really big bottom feeder. They're in contention depending on how they play these last like 4 or 5 games. They could even potentially make it out of the play-in to the 6th seed, which is insane. And granted, they do have a really good team: LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and of course Con Knipple. But I would say Con Knipple was definitely the catalyst for all of that. I think he's been the most consistent player for the Hornets all year. He's made over 253 3-pointers this season. It's the most ever by a Hornets player in franchise history. I believe he passed Kemba Walker, and this dude's a rookie. Like this is insane. So, but I will say, like Cooper Flag, he's been putting up pretty good numbers since day one. He did get injured for a good amount of time. I think that is a legitimate knock against the Cooper Flag conversation. Trying to campaign for him to win Rookie of the Year. So in that sense, kind of what Con Knipple was able to do, and obviously like Dallas, like Coop's efforts have not led to much winning, if at all. And I know you could argue, the Hornets are probably a better team than the Mavs, obviously clearly record-wise and player-wise. But still, it's like Dallas on paper, they have a lot of talent. Sure, they have some injuries or whatever. They traded AD, but they still have some relatively good talent. And yeah, Charlotte has definitely overexceeded all expectations they had, and they're going to make the playoffs, potentially maybe even get out of the play-in if they play well this last stretch. But yeah, I would say Con Knipple's the Rookie of the Year. And then that goes into my bet. I did not actually bet either Con Knipple nor Cooper Flag. I bet in a tie, co-Rookie of the Year. And this hasn't happened in over 30 years. The last time a co-Rookie of the Year happened was in 1994. It was Jason Kidd and Grant Hill. I think it was Jason Kidd and Grant Hill. They were the last co-Rookie of the Years, because I don't know necessarily how the voting worked. And to be fair, I probably should have looked into it before, but I didn't. I don't know exactly how co-MVP or co-Rookie of the Years work. I would assume they would have to have an exact tie in points, which is obviously a very small percentage of actually happening. But I did bet a little bit, not a ton, like a little bit less than a unit, but it was like a plus over a 30-1 odds of a tie / co-winners. And I got that at like plus 3,020, and then now the odds are 2241. So I got bought up a little bit. Honestly, it is a gamble. I'd say it's more of like scratch off ticket for the lottery, a little bit more so than like. I still think it's actually a relatively good bet, just because I think this race is super super tight, and like I said, for the reasons I said, I think Colin Knippel should win the Rookie of the Year. I think he's been better, but the whole narrative, the NBA loves Cooper Flag, number one pick, 45 points on primetime TV after he's the only teenager in NBA history to score 50 plus. And and he did it at 19, and he's still 200 days away, I believe, from turning 20. And then following that performance up, granted, super short-handed Lakers, but primetime television against the Lakers, the only thing that would have made it better if it was, at crypto, but they did it in the American Airlines Center back in Dallas. But still, almost a 45-point triple-double. All the media sources, I would say, are probably campaigning for Cooper Flag. So I think it's going to be a really, really close, tight race.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, kind of just a lottery ticket. But if you had a vote, bias aside, who would you vote for?
No, Colin Knippel. I think he's the better overall throughout the season. And I think he's more of an impact on winning, and I feel like that has to be in the conversation. Obviously, a lot of these rookies, especially the top picks, they go to really bad teams. And honestly, everyone looks at now, and maybe it's recency bias. They're like, oh, they look at Charlotte. Oh, they have this player, they have this player. But to be all like transparent and all like honest, is like no one thought the Hornets were going to do anything this year. You know why? Because they haven't done anything anytime. Like they had no expectations to even get close to making the playoffs. They're probably going to be another like 20-win team, just like the rest of these bottom feeder Eastern Conference teams. So the fact that they might actually have a chance to make it out of the play-in is insane, and that was mainly driven by Colin Knippel.
Yeah, I think they're one of, if not the hottest team since the All-Star break. Like, they were in that little cluster, the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and then they had like a Lakers March where they won. I'd have to look at exactly. I think they were at like 27 wins, and now they're at what, 40 something?
43.
Yeah, so left to be seen. I probably have to agree. I've heard some people comparing this Rookie of the Year race to a race that happened. Oh, what is that? 22 years ago, Carmelo Anthony versus LeBron James. Carmelo Anthony went to a Denver Nuggets team, and I believe he made the playoffs his first year, or if not, he was really close. LeBron did not make the playoffs his first year, and obviously Carmelo, the year prior to being drafted, he was on Syracuse. He won the national championship. LeBron was still in high school. LeBron, obviously, the better prospect, but kind of similarities in terms of LeBron went to a lesser team, or a team that didn't perform as well, and Colin Knippel went to a team that won. But like you said, a lot of the winning can be contributed to Colin Knippel and just his role and just his overall impact on the team. So I'd have to agree, but I would not surprise me if Cooper Flag won, because I feel like in the future, Cooper Flag will.
The narrative. He has the narrative behind him.
Yeah, he has a narrative, and the NBA is looking for a face. And like Jason Kidd said, we've planted our flag with Cooper. Like,
I pledge allegiance to the flag. Plant the flag in Dallas. We're not going to freaking trade him like we did Luka, because we don't have Nico Harrison anymore. Clip that. Times like we might be really bad in Dallas, but times are looking forward. Imagine we get AJ Debonsa with Coop. Woo! Feeling like the Raiders.
Yeah, the NBA will probably have to be investigated if Dallas wins the lottery for the second year in a row after trading Luka Doncic. But I don't know. I think that's probably about it in terms of content I wanted to cover for this week. NBA playoffs or NBA regular season's wrapping up. I believe it ends on Sunday. In terms of teams in the playoffs / play-in, that's been established for weeks on end. Last night, for example, it was the Utah Jazz at the Oklahoma City Thunder. The spread was 24.5. I think that might be the biggest spread I've seen this season.
I think
they won by 35.
Was it? I could have sworn I saw something saying it was the biggest spread ever.
Oh, I didn't see any tweet like that. I just couldn't believe that was a spread. And I was like, do I even try to play this? Like either alt boost up the Jazz or lower the Thunder. Yeah, and the Thunder they won by 35 points.
Yeah, all these spreads are getting ridiculous. It's all these bottom feeder teams who are just trying to tank. And they're just getting blown out so bad. Yeah, I think it might be the biggest ever because I'm just looking at Perplexity and it says, well, right now it's telling me like since 1990, the highest NBA spread was 24. And that was back in 1993 against the Mavericks against the Phoenix Suns. And I can guarantee you it was most likely the Mavericks as dogs in that game because, yeah, Mavericks sucked in the 90s.
I mean, I'm on StatMuse right now, and they said previously the biggest spread. I mean, it kind of speaks to the problem about the NBA. The biggest spread last night was 24. That's what it says closed at. The second biggest one was 2 weeks prior, the Wizards at the Knicks. That spread was 22.5. Third one last year, once again, Utah at Minnesota, 22.5. And then the fourth one would be, once again, this year, Washington Wizards at the Oklahoma City Thunder, 21.5. So,
okay. Yeah. So the headline was, it was the largest pregame point spread. I guess pregame. So obviously, like close, it might have closed at 24. I don't know. I'm getting like multiple different things according to X. It's like largest 24.5, the largest spread in 30 years. And then this is one other guy says, minus 25.5, biggest ever in NBA history. Yeah, I think it might have been the biggest in NBA history.
I mean, that's what StatMuse is showing, and just seeing all of these spreads, pregame spreads, it's very concerning for the NBA because in the top 10, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 10 biggest spreads in NBA history have happened this year. And if you include last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of the 10. So
yeah,
Adam Silver has his hands full, to say the least.
Yeah, and they've already proposed like different scenarios to combat anti-tanking. Like honestly, I wouldn't be surprised that the like MLB season this year outperforms NBA as like a total season aggregate, like way better than the NBA. Like MLB has actually done a lot of really good things. Coming from someone who's like never watched MLB and thought baseball was super boring to like actually kind of getting into it recently. They've done a lot of stuff with like the pitch clock and overtime, the ghost runner on second over the years that have made it really interesting. Also, the challenges, that at-bat challenges are really interesting as well. So the NBA needs to do something to, combat, because no one wants to watch the NBA.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right, well, I think that's wraps. If I don't say so myself. All right, I got to hit the gym got to get a nice chest pump before the game tonight, and I kind of I don't know. I'm probably not going to bet even the first half spread. I just kind of want to low key just like enjoy it, like no sweats involved, and bask in my victory of winning the bracket challenge.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It was a nice win, but this is your mecca. This is your college basketball playoff, and to not have any juice on it, I'm disappointed.
It's fine. Sometimes it's just like, all right, you're gonna like peer pressure me into freaking betting something. We'll see. There's still 3 out, and it's crazy. Like you're in California, so it probably doesn't matter to you. And for me, I'm in Texas, so it's not that bad. For our folks out in the East Coast, that must blow that the national championship game is at 8:50 Eastern. I saw the time. I was like, wait a minute, no way, this is like real.
Yeah, they're getting tips from the NBA in terms of just starting games at 8 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, I don't think they'll ever get like that, like crazy where it's 8 p.m. Pacific time, because it's not taking place in the East Coast. I don't even know Indiana is it Eastern time. I want to say it's Central.
I think it's Central.
Yeah, so 7:50 isn't bad Central. But I mean, it just makes sense from I was surprised that was actually that late, but you know, if you put the games later, more people watch. Like if they put it at like 6:50 Eastern, that'd be like 5:50. The game would essentially be on right now, and it's like 3 o'clock where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do an NBA All-Star game where the game is starting at like 1 o'clock Pacific time. People don't even know what's going on. But even just an hour ahead, 4:50. So like people on, or I would say even 30 minutes before, like 5:30, would just make up a huge difference. So
yeah. So all right. Anyways, bet responsibly. Let's make some money. Maybe I just gotta throw in a couple shekels, you know, for tonight. No pun intended.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
we'll catch y'all later. Yeah, this is probably going to be the show for the week. So we'll catch y'all with a recap next week, as well as a preview for the NBA play-in, which will be happening not next week, but the week after, I want to say. And then we'll be caught up, full on board on MLB. And honestly, maybe start looking at standing playoffs a little bit. I've not been tracking hockey whatsoever. I've always wanted to, but with the NBA going on, and then also you got a little bit of football, NFL going on at the same time, and college basketball. It's so hard to keep track of hockey on top of that.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, so we'll catch y'all later. Yeah. Do you want to?
All right. No, I wasn't gonna. I was gonna say, go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue. UConn cover first half spread. Then Big Blue, you can take over. All right.
All right.